And hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. And our dear friend Cliff Schecter from Cliff's Edge is joining us right now. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, live-ish from the state of my birth. Although only I think you're in. Are you in the general
I'm in
Ohio area?
Not Kentucky. Were you actually born in Ohio? Or
I was born in Cincinnati. Yeah, because it was the nearest hospital
gosh.
without chickens. Mm-hmm.
Wow, you must have told me that somewhere along the line.
Indeed, I did. Yeah, I always share that.
Maybe I should have behaved more in college, and my memory would be working better. You know?
I don't think you can blame it. Like college stuff. I think there's so many forgettable things right now that a lot of us are doing what was effectively a mental purge right now. You know what I mean?
Good point. Like the brain matter taken up.
Yeah, it's like the Damarera. Forget about it. But done as a defense mechanism against the current state of reality, as it were. Hi, chat room. Prep your questions for Cliff. I'm sure you'll have many. You and I haven't spoken in a teensy little bit, so it's hard to know where to pick up. Like, I feel like the best thing we can do is sort of a needle drop on where we are in the current unpleasantness. Following the, for those that thought the actual week following the assassination was bad in terms of just Civil War discourse and nonsense and heightened calls for violence and the like. Then they do this memorial service where Trump, it reminds me of that line in Dumb and Dumber where Jim Carrey rolls up on the little scooter and Jeff Bridges goes, just when I thought you couldn't do anything you couldn't be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Redeem yourself.
Oh, that's right.
I'm sorry, I had to.
And no, it's exactly right. And so I feel like, right when the calls for awful are getting almost ratcheting up to a fever pitch, Trump gives this embarrassing, self-involved, whiny, anti-Christian speech at this memorial service and just knifes the tires on where on this thing that they were planning on riding across the finish line, I guess, in at least the next election.
But the thing is, look, Al, the thing is that, again, and this is what I'm struggling with, because you don't want to let hate consume you.
Yes.
It's not a good thing.
Thank you, Yoda.
But I'm struggling with not hating the people that did this, because people do all sorts of bad things and stupid things in life, that are mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it the first term, and we saw an insurrection at the end of it, and we knew there were months of planning for him to overthrow the government, and we knew that that the only thing that held him back in certain cases, like shooting the protesters, was Mark Milley being there, and others that we may not agree with on everything, Mattis, and people that aren't my brand of politics, but at least were professional soldiers or professional bureaucrats in other situations that stopped him from his worst instincts. And we knew, these people that want to now pretend that, oh my God, we could have had no idea. I can curse on this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't see. It's been that long. I haven't been on because it's hard for me not to, because it gets me.
Yes.
Saying, yeah, you fucking did know. You did know. And if you didn't know, you're a fucking moron. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw who this. He is not. He's got the mental and emotional capacity of a child, and not even like a well-adjusted child.
Right.
An adult child. And we knew this from then, and this isn't even a me taking ad hominems. This is just the truth.
Yeah.
He does not have the capacity to make anything in life not about him. He doesn't have the capacity in any situation in life to rise to the occasion. Everybody's like, well, can he rise to? Of course he can. George W. Bush, say what you will, could rise to the occasion. George H.W. Bush, Reagan, whatever. I can go through all sorts of Republican presidents I couldn't stand, and yet say they had that ability. But you see a person, those of us who lived in New York, who saw him for years, whatever, you knew that there was no ability for him to ever make anything about anybody else, because he has no capacity to think about anyone else, because he's a sociopath and a narcissist.
Right.
So the people that looked at all that and said, let's put that into office, but with fewer guardrails, an even crazier Supreme Court, fewer, after we know he's been granted immunity, with
Right.
fewer people there in the professional, and we've been lucky because a few of them apparently hung around and have saved us in a few
Hmm.
situations, have stopped him, and then he ends up firing them or whatever. Done crazy shit like giving us the actual accurate BLS numbers, for example.
Yeah.
And so it just I'm so angry. I really, again, because I know hatred consumes us and it makes it worse for us. And so I don't want to, but the people that I know who did this willingly, it's
Yeah.
so infuriating.
Well, yeah, that's
Um,
the biggest blowback line I think that I'm sure you're as tired of hearing it as anybody else. Like, we didn't vote for this. They didn't vote for this on our side.
yeah, you
Like,
fucking
yeah,
did.
they kind of did. Yeah, I
No,
actually they
I wouldn't
did.
even give the kinda. I think you're being too kind to them. Everybody knew exactly what the fuck this guy was.
Right. Yeah, and with when their side gets upset about it, I got to say, okay, so there was I brought this up. I was just on Steph's show, and I brought up the point that there was sort of this quiet part out loud aspect of Trump that they enjoyed a little bit, but that the quiet part was part and parcel to the success of the Republican Party in getting the wins that they had gotten over the years. Is that the whoever it was would move to the center, do this kind of like, I'm here for every American, I'm the president you can have a
Right.
beer with kind of idea. And then when they get in, the compassionate conservative goes out the window and they start handing over the keys to people like Dick Cheney, and we get into Afghanistan and Iraq, right? Like that was how they used to run. But there was almost like the Republicans, and especially the maggot crowd, became prideful about they want to take credit for this awful. It's not enough that you just get it done. They want to beat their chest about it or something. And so Trump came in and said
No,
it.
they're proud of it. That's it. I mean, it's well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I was just saying, like, the problem is that when you do that, it's when you move to the center and you do have to get a coalition of people, and he did get across the line through this bizarre coalition of people, is that if you're doing it all out loud, what you have to do is promise everybody everything, and out loud, in like overtly. And so you can't hide what you're giving to one group to buy their loyalty from another group that you're giving to buy something the opposite to buy their loyalty, across the spectrum of these issues. And that's where he's trapped, because he promised the Epstein files. He promised, no new wars. And then he's literally bragging about shooting fishing boats out of the water off of Venezuela. And then he's going to retake Bagram. Yeah, right.
Right.
And
you
yeah.
saw this. That this is what my problem is I get that, like, we've crossed such a line in terms of so many people not knowing what reality is, disinformation out there, and it's a whole other conversation, because again, I'm a big free speech proponent, but
mhm.
if we don't try to contend with this and solve this at some point, like we can't have democracy with a populace where a large percentage of people seriously have no clue what's really happening, and
Right.
thinks that they're eating the dogs, eating the cats, eating the pets who live there, kind of thing. And so the thing
Mhm.
is okay, there's those folks, but like when he's going into Michigan, and I think Elon Musk did some of this for him, but who the hell cares? The point is, and you're running ads in Detroit that are saying, we're going to help Israel. And then you're running ads in Dearborn in the same state, like, we're going to help Palestinians.
Right.
And somehow people can't put together when it's on TV. It's not like it's
Yes.
like hidden in like whatever, that maybe he's a liar and is going to help neither of us or whoever he feels like or whatever, because he's making all the direct opposite promises to people. But no, they go for it and vote for this guy.
Well, and
And
also part of it is it gives cover to people who don't actually, they know what they at least feel like, or they are really voting for. Like, I know he's giving loud lip service to them while he's giving loud lip service to me, but I'm the side I think he's really going to follow through on, and he's just he's BSing the other people all the time.
Right.
And in some cases
he's a
that
good
turns
con man, but that doesn't let people off the hook.
No.
as far as
Well, and because you're benefiting from it. You're literally like you're counting on it. You're counting on it that you're actively wanting to lie. And that's part of the sort of like evangelical lying for Jesus is okay
yes,
theory, right? That's the
or much worse when you've
yeah.
got Cardinal Dolan sitting there. Oh wait, am I allowed to
Yeah.
criticize Charlie Kirk yet, or are we still in a Charlie
Of
Kirk
course.
free zone where I
No.
can't say anything, or maybe helicopters will come in and
Sir,
get
and certainly you
I don't know.
can't quote back anything he said that would contradict the deification of him posthumously.
Or anything that our friend John Fugelsang might point out that Jesus actually said, which would probably go against every single thing Charlie Kirk ever said. But Cardinal Dolan was cool with that because Cardinal Dolan's a lying sack of shit. Yeah, I just said that about a cardinal, so at me if you want. That he could sit there on Fox News and say that about this guy. Hold up this guy as a paragon of virtue. I hope I don't get on an airplane with a black pilot because then I'll know they're not qualified. Yeah, that's
Right.
the guy. That's the one you want to hold up. In any case, I'm so exhausted by the people that stupidly just. I mean, they really had to reach a level of cognitive dissonance maybe never accomplished in human history to look at this person and think he was at all competent. He was all mentally competent. He would do anything to help anybody ever, anywhere but himself. I mean, the examples were again and again and again and again, and they just bought it. And there were people the first term, who came out after that. There were ranchers and farmers, and people were like, "He screwed us up." But nope,
Right.
all of them bought into it for this next term, and now they're all bankrupt. And
well, so part of that, let me like push back on what I see, anyways, amongst their discourse, which is really striking this time, and why I think it's affecting his poll numbers this time in a way that it didn't before. Never mind the lame duck aspect of it. That the idea that he's going to run again, much less survive his whole term, is ridiculous. But let's put that aside. And I don't mean because of anyone else's hand. I mean because he's an old fart and he's decaying right before our eyes.
Well, because his hands are purple and he's got cankles on his cankles, and he clearly has heart disease. And if you're the objective,
and no one cares. No one
terms. It's lucky. I mean,
right.
Honestly.
No one around him cares enough to actually take care of the man. They're waiting for his demise. They're like a bunch of Skeksis gathered around the lead Skeksis bed, waiting to grab the scepter.
About that Substack, they're all already,
trial by stone.
And
right.
They're all angling at this point because they know he's
so the first time around, I want to clarify this because I do think it's meaningful to the change in tone and why I don't think the wall is impervious the way it was maybe the first term, is that during the first term you had Democratic control of the House and the Senate at crucial points, and they were able to push back on what he was doing. And to MAGA's mind, what that did was take his perfect plan and scuttle it. The reason it didn't work wasn't because it was a stupid plan. It was the Democrats' fault for not enacting everything he wanted to do. If you let him off the leash, he wouldn't. It would have worked. Right. It would have been successful.
All that went against basic principles of things like gravity. But of course it would have worked because it was Donald Trump and those damn Democrats.
That's exactly right. So that first term they thought that. This time, there is no gravity in terms of the legislative pushback on this. And there is an active abdication of any kind of control from the House or the Senate specifically. No matter what Democrats want as far as censure, they couldn't do it anyways. And in the Republican sense, they are absolutely hands off on even the most normal aspects of it. And so even the budget stuff, they passed a continuing resolution. That's Biden's budget, for God's sake. Right. But they're literally just stepping back, you deal with this or whatever. Okay, so the problem is that Trump uses the scapegoating of his enemies to great effect. If he's unpopular, it's because the fake news has made him unpopular, that all the stories are bad. Right. And so, but the problem right now is you start kicking people like Kimmel off the air and threatening everybody, and it looks like the media is cowed. Even if they aren't, if it even looks like that, it's harder for MAGA to go, oh, maybe people are crapping on you because or what. At this point, they almost become heroic. If they're still crapping on you in that situation, these guys are butch as shit, I guess. But the problem is this time around, he's off the reins. The tariffs are running fucking rampant insofar as the only restraints are within the cabinet and it's supposedly just him on a
which
whim.
is to say none.
Right, exactly. Well, I would argue that like Besant punching, a couple of members of the like the gay dude who used to work for Soros is getting into fistfights in the White House around economic policy that he knows doesn't work. Right,
where they're having celebrations, which is what mature administrations do.
Sure. And so what I'm saying is that now they don't have that automatic, like, well, the Dems are impeaching him, the Dems are stopping him, the media is shutting him down everywhere, they're telling nothing but bad stories about him, because right now the narrative is he's got no reins on him. The House and the Senate are like, whatever you say, boss, and the media is allegedly cowed into subservience, with the exception of comedians, in which case you're like, well, what difference would that make? That's why, like, the demonization of the internet, almost like a satanic panic thing with this shooter, has helped them create a temporary, deep dive into that. But that's not anywhere they want to go. Because
that's not. That's the thing, is the Epstein stuff has outlasted that.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
We saw it. He goes to the United Kingdom, and God bless our old. What should we call them? Masters. I'm ready to give the United States back to the UK if they can make it work better, which I think they probably could. But they've got their creative protests, and I love it. They've got the big banner of him and Epstein. Like, he can't get away from that stuff no matter where he goes.
He never will.
No, he won't. And his own people like Comer are so stupid. They keep thinking they're going to debunk it, never having heard of the Streisand effect. All they do is keep it out there by doing that. And Democrats, so that's out there. Now the questions about his health and his age are out there. So the stuff with Bibi Netanyahu and his alliance with him, and all these things together have led to obvious cracks in the coalition there. You have my God, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I have to admit, I never thought I would see that day where she broke with him and started criticizing him, and Tucker Carlson and some of these people, Nick Fuentes, and all of these.
Right.
So, you're seeing those cracks from the right, from just right-wing ideologues. That's not even fair, from fascists, basically.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the people who bought his bullshit somehow after everything they'd seen about him, like, oh, okay, he's just going to get rid of undocumented immigrants. My cattle ranch runs on undocumented immigrants working for me, but I'm sure that won't affect me. And now they're all fucking bankrupt, out in these places, and they've got nobody else they can blame. Nobody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's just the Republicans, as you pointed out.
Well, and one of the problems that he really has, and there's a myriad of them, let's be honest, he's got a lot of problems. But one of the biggest ones is not only that he promised everybody everything, like Santa Claus, he also promised that it would be easy.
Yeah,
one of the biggest.
Ukraine,
really
Russia, easy. First day, it's over.
One phone call, it's so easy, and everybody who's running everything right now is so stupid. They're just so dumb. They don't know how anything works. They're ignorant, and you're talking about like politicians who've been in for a long time. You can say they've got ideological capture, or that they're habitually stuck on something that worked before but doesn't work anymore, or times have changed, which is what the kind of like we need a new guard argument always is, as if young people are always the solution. And I would say Charlie Kirk and everybody at Turning Points USA, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes, the idea that a group of people just because they're young will solve the problem is absurd. They can be just as deluded and wrong and racist and as anybody else.
Stupid and
clearly, and wisdom normally counts for something.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So the problem is in selling ease to everyone. And that you're the boss, and that you could just, you can dunk from mid-court, which is what Trump has been selling everybody, is that you've got to at least play really well. If you talk like Muhammad Ali, you can rope a dope, but you better come back at the end and nail it. And
you got to deliver at some point. Something,
and that can only go on so long, right? And right now, these are judging from his health, these are late rounds, and they're aware of it. and it's not easy. And he's even come out and said this about Ukraine and Russia, right? He's even come out and said, I thought this would be the easiest, and it's actually the hardest. And why did he think it was easiest? Because his relationship with Vladimir Putin, like he'd do it, like give me a solid, like, dude, this guy is murdering tens of thousands of people monthly.
Correct.
He's kidnapped 70,000 children. Like,
right. As
this
the
isn't
worst dictators in history. So yeah, I'm sure he's not playing you.
right. And so like the idea that you're like talk him out of it is just madness to start with. But Trump seems to have genuinely believed it, and it might be because that's what Putin told him in an attempt to
I'm sure I'd bet that.
Yeah,
Honestly.
that as soon as you get in, buddy, I'll cover it, knowing that he's a lame duck and he can't do anything about it.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so the issue that he has is that when you sell ease and that you can dunk from midcourt, you really do run up against a wall in this, because you got to deliver on a level that is impossible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
He doesn't
the
believe
issue.
in setting expectations low. He believes in lying his ass off and setting expectations way beyond what anybody could do, even an actual talented, smart, like charming, intellectually solid kind of person who comes in and really. Now we're talking about him.
Right.
So, I mean, he can't get anything done with anybody. He can only do it through illegal. And I don't say all executive orders. I'm talking about his, where it's like, oh, we're in an emergency. I think I'll take over the control of tariffs, which is unconstitutional. But
Right.
of course, Mike Johnson won't do anything about it. And those kinds of things. That's the only way he can do anything. So I mean, the only group, the only sort of, and they all kind of overlap. I think the only groups of people that he's made, really happy are like vicious fascist oligarch billionaires.
Right.
Are basic, everyday, vicious racists who just love seeing innocent Latinos and others getting beaten up by masked ICE members. Crazy, far right Christian evangelicals that don't actually believe anything that Christianity is, that are in a cult and just want to hurt people. And like Project 2025 authors who are dorky little loser incels that nobody talked to in school. And come on, I mean, and all these groups overlap somewhat. So, what percentage of the population is that? Not a ton.
Right.
He's at 39% approval recently, and I was kind of surprised he was that high. So,
well, and again, 35 is the absolute bottom. And 39, you will find he pops up, like Rasmussen even pointed out recently, and I think we're finally up on Substack, which is good. Rasmussen, and if you haven't had a chance, check out Cliff Schecter's Substack, which is Cliff's Edge on Substack as well. Is it not? I believe that's right. If I'm not,
it's blueamp.co, but
blueamp.co.
My column there. It's it's good enough. You'll find me there. Yeah, Cliffs_Edge is still the what do you call it? The handle. So you can get me there.
That's right. That's the easiest thing that will drag you there, as well as on YouTube. Yeah. So good. So Substack. So again, the selling of easy to MAGA and then not delivering, or that delivering this message well, especially months in, that there's going to be a little bit of pain when it comes to prices for groceries and the like for a while. And then recently his whole thing of like, wait till you see in a year or two when the factories are built.
Right, that's going to happen. No, I think the Weimar Republic level inflation will probably start sooner.
Yeah, and again, it's not coming down anytime soon, especially if you devalue the dollar at the same time in an attempt to lower interest rates. And now, why does he want interest rates to come down? Over time, as a way of fighting inflation, you want to, you're going to bring up your interest rates, and you're going to, tighten the money supply and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And there's been a lot of talk about how the Fed, in my personal opinion, and then later Bloomberg and all these other guys realized I've been right the entire time, which was that we didn't have monetary inflation. We have supply shock from COVID, and now we're trying to reshore shit, which causes a cost increase of inflation that is not monetary. It has nothing to do with the amount of money in circulation. It's that the material cost of building shit, getting the materials and the labor involved is more expensive. If you build an iPhone here,
yeah, I mean,
right,
which makes sense, like it's common sense. I mean,
yeah, right. It's the most logical kind of thing. And again, everybody's sort of like writing these mea culpa articles on all the economic papers after Trump gets elected about this shit, when they were stomping all over what they thought was Democrats spending too much. And again, this goes to COVID. COVID blew a $20 trillion hole in the economy and the erasure of businesses and the seizing of it up. And we filled that hole with $9 trillion of quantitative easing or stimulus. And you can't fill a $20 trillion hole with $9 trillion. It doesn't happen. Half of what Trump is promising about money coming back in of investment in the country is stuff that had been held off and paused that needs to happen for the regular function of these companies that they were doing, that they were holding off because of COVID and because of people slowly working their way back to offices and then the Chips and Science Act. So the mix of those two.
Think about this for a second, because this is important too, right? If the Chips Act, as you pointed out, is not passed, if they don't pass the biggest of all, did any Republicans vote for the COVID stimulus? If they did, it was maybe a half dozen.
Right.
To get shots in arms and get us moving and get funds to people. They all voted against that. Like the only thing they voted for, and any of them voted for that you can give them any credit for, and it still was like 20%, 15% of their caucus, was the infrastructure bill, which did help and did create some economic activity and create some jobs. But they voted against almost all of that. So as you're pointing out, as they're trying to fill that $20 billion hole, if it had been up to Republicans, instead of with $9 billion, instead of with 9, it would have been more like 2. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. And
it would have been a jettisoning collapse. It would have been, again, we're back into a situation where we're back to 2008 into 2009, and everybody talking about like the number of people that went on food stamps under Obama was the highest ever. And it's like, because it all happened in January through whatever August of 2009, when the economy was collapsing because of the previous administration basically flicking the house of cards as they went out the door.
Biden basically saved us. I mean, it would have, not Biden himself, but they all did, and that package and all of it stopped what would have been, if we'd followed Republican policy at that time, we'd be in something akin to the Great Depression right now. And you know what? Maybe we should have. Maybe that would have been better. Because maybe all of these people need to fucking learn their lesson. Maybe it would
because it's all. That's the problem with being a Democrat, though, Cliff, is that you got to care about people even if they don't care about themselves.
No, but it's not that I don't care about them. It's not that. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want revenge. It's not about vengeance or anything. What I'm saying is maybe it would have been better, because if people realized that this is what Republican policies do, like they did with Herbert Hoover, then maybe we would have never gone back to someone like Trump, and we would have been looking at 30 years of Democratic control again. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying it because I want anybody to specifically hurt.
Exactly. And that's the problem. That's why you can't. That's why, like, Democrats are always in suffer the sort of Gordian knot problem of picking up the pieces or cleaning up the mess after a Republican, no matter who it is, and trying to make life as easy and as fluid and as, and making sure it continues to flow normally and get back to status quo as quickly as possible, to almost an impossible level. Amongst, whether it's 2009, or 2021, or even, after Reagan and Bush won, with Clinton creating a surplus over the course of 8 years and then letting it be ravaged and spent on war by the Republicans again.
Every cycle, that's
every time
they screw it all up, and we come in.
So what Democrats need to do is, how Trump is always blaming Biden for all of his problems, that he doesn't own the economy. It's his on day one until it isn't, and then it's not to the end of the year, and it's all Biden's fault.
It's his for any good numbers and not for any bad numbers.
Right. Democrats Democrats actually have math and economic numbers to back their stuff, and so they've got a chest beat this next time around, and it's going to happen because Republicans are not going to want to fix this. And by the way, your audio is a little low coming my way. Can you boost it a touch on your end? Yeah, just to bring it up a bit.
Let me move this a little closer too, and then let's see what we can do about it.
Just to make sure I got audio from you. Let's see what we got. Check.
I'd be very upset if you can't. Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks. So
lower. I don't know why it lowers itself on its own, which is kind of
sometimes.
stupid.
Yeah, sometimes it will auto. There's like software will like auto level it. I'm like, don't do me any favors.
It's just like, Cliff, you're too loud. I'm going to make you lower. Which I get it. I'm too loud, but you know.
Right. So
would you want me on here if I wasn't?
Right. So, Democrats need to start chest beating, and I've been pushing this lately, and it needs to like reach like kind of the zeitgeist of the Democratic side, which is that if we had proudly applauded the creation of all the programs that Democrats have created to help the poor and the disenfranchised and the workers and everybody, as loudly as we scream when they are dismantled by the Trumps of the world, we wouldn't be in this mess. We would not be. Or if
when we created these programs, infrastructure bill, okay, so some Republicans, only some in the ones who voted for it, could come along for the ride and come and be there for it. But when it came to something like the COVID stimulus bill, and we were handing out checks in various places as part of that, literally, it should be that every Democrat stands up with one of those checks, which is what Republicans try to disingenuously do, and says, here, we created this. This is what we did. This is why you're being funded. This is why your small business isn't going out of business. This is why this child care center is staying open.
These loans are why Marjorie Taylor Greene could run for office. Right.
If we would do that, I mean, you're right. I mean, like we just are so challenged in having a simple, straightforward message about how awful they are, which is really not that difficult if you want to put that together. And I mean, it's really pretty straightforward and easy. And then on the other side of things, who we are and what we stand for, look at the common strands of what, of what we've done to either respond to how awful they are or just to help people. And it lends itself to easily creating, a simple narrative about what we're for, with a couple of key talking points, a couple of key repetitive messages underneath that narrative that reinforce it. And I still, for the life of me, cannot understand why this is not one of the highest priorities, why we don't do this, why it's not being done, on social media, why it's not being done on all sorts.
I'll tell you exactly why it's not being done. Because there is a natural aversion to propaganda, which is, I think, healthy. But but that was created during a time when the government talking about its stuff was sort of always compared to Germany, or Stalinist or Maoist artwork of soldiers and people staring off into the sunrise at the greatness that is the movement. And
you're very right about that. But when the other side starts behaving like that, you have to, realize that they've now become Germany or Stalin or Mao. And if you don't adapt and respond to that by realizing, okay, this is not our perfect world. It's not my perfect world. I believe I would hope for good government. I would hope for, Citizens United never existing and reasonable money spent in elections that's completely regulated and all these kinds of things. But that they haven't accepted that that's not the world we're in. And even if you're uncomfortable doing it, get past it. You have to brag about the things you've done, because if not, they will take credit.
Learn from people with egos like me and Cliff Schecter. But
exactly, I'll tell you all fucking day long. No, I'm just kidding. But
I will.
I don't like talking about things I've accomplished and I've made myself, because I have realized along the way you do have to do that. You do have to be your own booster, and Democrats need to do that. I'm sorry. So if you're uncomfortable with it, you're uncomfortable with it. But if it's about saving the republic, open your mouth and let people know that when they get a check at a various program, that, that helped save something. You did it. The other asshole voted against it. The
Right,
one with the
exactly.
R next to their name.
And if anybody criticizes any part of it, go. I'll tell you what. Nobody creates a perfect program. I'm doing the best I can to create the most perfect thing I can possibly. If you have a problem with what it doesn't do, go talk to everybody who voted against it, because no one is more responsible for the things it doesn't solve than the people who didn't vote with us. Because we could have gotten so much more if they'd have come along for the ride. That you just throw that in their face and go ask anybody who voted against this. And they'll tell you how their plan is awesome, and then break that down. Start kicking the tires on the thing that isn't actually helping anybody right now, and especially
right. I mean, the most amazing statistic to me, Hal,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't believe it. I should repeat this every show. You should.
Mm-hmm.
We all should. I'd have to look up the exact date, but it's been about. I think I'm trying to remember if it was Reagan's second term or just since Reagan. I mean, maybe since Reagan, right? Because you had an equal number of Democratic and Republican presidencies, right?
Yeah.
And in that time, there have been, and this was something that was put out a couple months ago, so it's probably changed a little bit, although not much, because Trump created 22,000 jobs last month, so I don't think that changed this much. But something like 51 million jobs have been created, and 49 million of them were under Democrats. Just think about that for a second, and think about that. That is an actual factual truth. I only may be a little bit off, but that is just about right. And that we haven't made sure that every single human in America knows that.
Yeah.
Think about what Republicans would do with that. Just think about it.
So I made this wonderful little counter on the suggestion of our dear friend CSL, and that at one point I think it was Glenn Beck had a thing up like number of days of the Jan 6 hostages being held or some nonsense like that. And so I made a little counter that automatically updates every day. And it's been 244 days since Donald Trump got sworn in, where the Epstein files.
Can I steal that from you and share it?
I insist. I will send you the script for it.
Let's do it. I'm screenshotting it right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? I would much rather have like the actual thing you've got, because I think, again, repetition through our various platforms, people need to see this stuff.
Right. So and again, I will CSL winking at me, but he was like, I literally I'm a big fan of it. Like, I'm always terrible at selling my show because I like the monetary aspect of it. I think I suffer from the same kind of artist thing, like putting a number on what my art comedy time thought is worth is very weird, because it's not the same thing as ditch digging, but it's not worthless. So there's a weird aspect of just like numbering. I'm sure journalists have the same issue. Because you're like, well, my flight cost something to fly into town, and I had to question these people, so there was gas money. But past that point, how do you put a marker on your intellectual effort, right? So that's always been a tough part. But as far as its value added to people's lives, I stand by all my art, whether I've done it for free or I've done it for a network. That's never been a problem for me, where I will beat my chest about, like, again, I said this on Steph's show today. My flappers shows that I do once a month that I improvise, and come up with very little material that I've ever said before, if any. Most of the time I try, to not do any. I'll stand those shows up against anything on Netflix any day of the week, and no matter who they are. and all of them, even my worst one, I think, which is, is better than Rogan's last special that he spent a year writing. So I'll throw that down with anybody. No worries.
He's probably
whatsoever.
Spoken up with Elon the whole time, though. So
Right, that's true. So he's got plenty of reach on it. But I will say that, so I don't have a problem with that ego part of it. So if anybody can learn a lesson from me about that, that's what I have the ability
same with me
to teach.
Again, like, I don't mean that as false, like, modesty.
No.
I can be proud of things I've done and whatever, but for the longest time I wouldn't say certain stuff, and I'll be, and not share accomplishments. And it's like, you have to learn to do that. You do,
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, hey, I did this. Hey, I did that. I mean, a lot of people, I don't even think there are people that knew I wrote a book. Well, I wrote a book on John McCain. It was a bestseller, 2008. I didn't have the Heritage Foundation buy 10 billion copies. In fact, nobody helped me at all on the Democratic side. That'll be shocking. I had to go out and put together a digital strategy of my own. I got it on TV. I got it on Jon Stewart's show. It sold 24,000 or something like that copies, which for a political book ain't bad. It's not It's not fucking,
Hmm.
the Da Vinci Code, trust me. But and at one point was not only, in the top 20, number 17 on Amazon overall, but it was number 2 among political books behind a guy named Obama. There you
Hmm.
go. I just bragged about it because
There you
I have
go.
to remind people every once in a while. I did that, right? You know what?
And,
I can then tell you I got a D in high school chemistry. I fucked plenty of things up too. I'll take credit for that too. So,
well, here
it goes
and
both ways.
so my point for Democrats is that when you come up with stuff like SNAP and S chip and Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, every functional aspect of the Farm Bill that isn't a giveaway to big agribusiness, the NIH, the CDC, all these things are crafted by people who give a damn about people, even if they don't share your ideology. That they just want
Right.
human lives to be around. Because I have faith in my fellow human beings that if I've got enough runway, I can land this plane, and you and I can talk somebody. I'm sure there are cultish Jonestowny types out there, but your vast majority of Republicans, at some point, I can go, look, we agree on the problem, we don't agree on the solution. What parts do we agree on? Can we save those people right now? And then you and I can bitch at
Right.
each other at a bar. That's not hard to go by. And there's room to do it all over the place. And there's, I think, a real push, both from the Republican side, especially around Trump. They're worried about a coalition building. Massey and Ro Khanna scares the living hell out of Donald Trump. That more than anything is
Listen, you're as a guy originally born and raised in Kentucky. I remember seeing Massey once. This is a long time before he took, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, in the Cincinnati airport before he took on obviously Trump these days and whatever. And I remember he was one of those ones who took like what I called the Manson family Christmas card with everybody around the tree
yeah.
with assault rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this guy's absolutely a lunatic and irresponsible and insane. And, I'm still going to say that to a large degree. But here's what else I'm going to say, because I'm going to be quite honest about it. He has been quite simply the most effective Republican elected official in going after Donald Trump since Trump has been in either
Absolutely.
term of Trump being
The only
president.
one that has shown
Oh,
any actual courage, which,
yes,
again,
all the other ones, the only other one you can find that took Trump on while they were in office was Liz Cheney. And she sat on the January 6th committee and other stuff, but not with the day to day ferocity that
mm-hmm.
Massey takes him on and talks about what a liar he was and how he promised this stuff to these right wing Republicans like
Right.
him. And because all these ones are like, oh, well, I endorse Joe Biden now or Kamala Harris. It's like, thanks, Jeff Flake, for doing that when you're 4 years out of office.
Right.
But when
Yeah.
you're in office, not barely doing a fucking thing,
Right. Pulling a
like,
Susan
great to
Collins
have you
every
now.
turn. Right.
Right. And I will say this, I almost felt like writing a piece specifically on Massey because he's the first one who presents a legitimate danger to Trump because of the fact that he's so popular in his district that Trump went after him and he still won there. So
Yeah.
Trump can't seem to stop this guy. And he has just made it his mission to just take Donald Trump on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as much as he likes to play a dumb guy on, as a lot of these guys do because they feel like they have to for the yokels in their party, he went to MIT. He's not an idiot.
Right. Well, okay. So
And so
Massey, like, it's a couple other things. Like, this is weird. Where like this is where we go into the zone of like where we try to legislate social change either direction. There's always backlash when you try to establish stuff like that, and you got to be aware of that when you're heading down that road. Always know that the
Yep.
people who are against it are always going to, are going to plan a long strategy of rekindling it, and in the same way that these people are still smarting over gay marriage, women are still are planning a return to getting their rights back as far as abortion rights and the like. So that's always what happens when you try to legislate things that are a matter of personal choice and should be between you and your priest, you and your God, you and your lack thereof, and you and your doctor. Anytime you try to
Yep.
make, or your partner, whenever you try to legislate that, you're always going to gack those up, and that has eaten up a big chunk of our political discourse. And some of it has to, because it was denying people rights, and it will. You just got to understand that's going to be there, and that fight's always going to be there. But there's a bunch of other stuff all the time that because gravity is real, especially when you deal with like House members and to some degree some senators, that you
Now,
can't.
again, I'm not sure they all accept that it's real.
Well,
I have
I'll
to
give you an
believe
example though.
with all the other things we now deny, right? That COVID vaccines cause more harm than COVID, and now
Mhm.
that having a gun makes you more safe, and all the other genius ideas that have come out of
I
that party
agree,
are
but I think
directly
that
against
again,
science.
look at the runway on measles, for example, and like as the cases rise and we
Yep.
litigate this stupidity. This is not the first time we've done this either.
No,
The
no, I
government
know.
was,
So I'm just
yeah.
saying, at this point,
So
maybe
Massey in
we've reached the
particular,
point where some of them are gravity deniers, and
totally.
honestly, if they want to go check that out, go right ahead.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
all I
right.
would
Just I would say like
go test
I
it.
think I agree
Go
with Bill
just
Hicks. Take off from the ground, but
right.
if
Yeah.
you really believe it. But in the case of Massey, I showed a documentary that somebody did about him. That's largely a giant campaign ad. That's exactly why we should have Citizens United, I suppose. But the idea is that this documentary was like showing how he lives in Kentucky. This dude has solar panels all over his house that were paid for in large part by the tax credit that made them available under Obama and Biden, period.
Of course.
Secondly, he recaptures rainwater from his house for irrigation and specifically has this like tiered garden that catches rainwater off the roof. I mean, it's straight up hippie shit. Like if you found out this guy's house was in fucking Haight Ashbury, near the
Right.
park,
You'd
you wouldn't
believe
be
it, is what you're
surprised at
saying.
all. Right. So there's clearly some overlap and some shit that you can just kind of like, okay, let's put your personal bigotries aside for a second and deal with what we can legislate. And then you obviously are all in on renewable energy because less reliance on our foreign enemies. Is that the reason? Fine. Then that's what we'll
Yeah,
talk
if that's
about
what you
to
want,
get
we'll
you
go
there.
with that.
We'll go
Right.
there, right? Let's if even though if I'm just saying I don't want to damage the environment. You don't think that's the issue, but we have to buy it from someplace else or dig up our parks to get it. It's a mess. How about that? And they will sign on to it, and they do. And
The
that's
only
where
question is, and there are a
that's
few
what the
others,
maggots are
things like
afraid
here and
of.
there they're definitely afraid. I mean, again, Massey has been by far the most effective. And again, I say this all the time, which is when people are like, oh, that's just one voice. One voice at times has changed the world. One
Yes.
voice, speaking out gives other people courage every time you do something like that. And I do. I think Massey taking the stands that he's taken and
Mm-hmm.
showing to be completely unafraid of Donald Trump has led Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and a couple. And I don't believe that they're
Mm-hmm.
doing it for the right reasons, but I don't really care.
Right.
Some of the other ones that have started speaking out against him, there's a few others too. The question is, how many of them can we get? Because obviously we need a certain number. If the number remains the same who have voted to release the Epstein files, um, we still will have to deal with the Senate though, and that and that will not be easy. But in the
Right.
House, if the number remains the same, then this election coming up tomorrow in Arizona for the late Raul Grijalva's seat,
Mm-hmm.
which his daughter is running in. So the name Grijalva is on the ballot in a very Democratic seat, and the only reason we didn't have enough Democrats, same thing with the late Jerry Connolly seat that we won in a big way a week or so ago,
Mm-hmm.
we had lost some people who had passed away. Well,
Mm-hmm.
now when they fill this seat tomorrow, depending upon how long it takes for them to be sworn in,
Yep.
we will have the votes unless one of the Republicans chickens out
Right.
and backs off. So,
Yes.
I mean, again, every one of these seats does matter. It's just, will they have the courage to stand there and stay with Massey when their vote is going to make a difference and not just be,
Right.
virtual
Well, I
virtue
think the
signaling?
problem is which direction does the courage go? Because on the one hand, if you're going to steel your spine against Trump, or are you going to steel your spine against the maggot QAnon group that got you there, that is more fixated on the Epstein files than they are on Donald Trump right now, or that
That's a great
still
point.
or thinks that he really wants them to release it, but the Jews around him or whoever's controlling him won't let him do it, and therefore you've got to help him do it in the same way that if you can call Jesus' bluff, he'll come back sooner. So but right, that I mean, honestly, like they
I know you're being
believe,
honest. It doesn't mean it's
yeah,
not funny still, but,
right, totally.
yeah.
That this cultish idea that like Trump really wants to do this, he just has to pretend he can't or whatever, so that some of his donors will attack the
Right.
Republican Party, and so he's got to act like he doesn't want to help, and then he really wants them. I'm helping him, and this goes to the Judas was the most beloved apostle theory, which is when Jesus said, "One of you will betray me," and that's necessary to the entire thing. If there's no Judas, there's no crucifixion. If there's no crucifixion, there's no Messiah. None of it. Somebody's got to do it. And so Judas was the good guy.
I like the Mel Brooks version of the Last Supper better myself, but
right, where they're all like they're there for dinner and he's holding the plate up behind him.
One of you will betray me tonight. Judas, super salad.
Yeah, right. But that was or the old joke, they're sitting around the table and he goes, one of you shall betray me. And Peter goes, is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? And he goes, no, Peter, you are the rock on which my church will be built. And Luke says, is it I, Lord? And he goes, no, you should be the scribe of my kingdom and teach the nations. And Judas goes, is it I, Lord? And Jesus goes, is it I, Lord? Is it I, Lord? Right. But the point being is that that is a well-known, especially amongst like evangelicals, is the idea that Judas was actually the most beloved, that he wasn't evil. He was necessary. Without him, there is no, he carried the burden. He killed himself because Jesus died. It wasn't that he was betraying him. He was ashamed because he thought it was going to work. He thought Jesus was going to rise up like a real leader. When they cut the dude's ear off, he would like raise up like with bazookas and start blowing everybody away. And this kind of like,
that's sort of Republican
Donald
Jesus
Trump crypto Jesus, right? And
MAGA crypto
right.
supply side.
And when he didn't, and they took him, he was like, "Oh dear, what have I done?" And he killed himself. Right? That's the story. So there are a bunch of maggots who view themselves as Trump's goodly Judas. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
And they believe that they have to release.
That sounds totally non-cult like, by the way. And
yeah,
normal.
Right. Oh, and that's Roseanne. That's the Roseanne crowd. Is that none of them believe he was close to Epstein all that time, or that he was part of it, or whatever. That he knew anything about it, even though he was closer to him than almost anyone else. That basically Epstein was replaced Fred in his life, his brother. He's only had two relationships, real friendships in his life. One was to replace his dad, which was Roy Cohn, and the other was to replace his brother, which was Fred. And that was Jeffrey Epstein. Both of them dead pedophiles, and these were his best friends. But they live with this idea that they can't be wrong about this. And that's actually worse for him, because if they thought they could be wrong, they'd fucking draw back and like, oh shit, maybe I don't want to look through that door. Maybe I don't want to go through that door. Right? But they can't believe it. Yeah. They have written it off. So they are fearlessly wanting to go, let's give it all out, right? And
sometimes
he can't have that.
You can make your own cult too crazy and cultish even for you.
That's how all cults end. That's how they either, if you don't successfully,
you end up castrating yourself because you think you're going to end up on a spaceship above you, and it just doesn't work out that way.
And if you don't, I have no if you don't do it, the remaining members will hunt you down.
Yep.
And
always remember that's where we got the drinking the Kool-Aid phrase from. Jim Jones, right. And you kind of look back at the leisure suits and all the stuff that Jim Jones wore and the sunglasses. You can see some Donald Trump in him. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, no question. You can more see like Donald Trump like learning from all these guys, looking at cult leaders, and that whole idea of he had that book of Hitler speeches on his nightstand. First of all, he doesn't read. But secondly, the idea was that he wanted.
Maybe there are a few pictures he could have picked something up from. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just not available in Cliff Notes. Nobody was going to be, or Spark Notes. It's interesting that you and I both have namesake study guide things.
Spark Notes and Cliff Notes. I feel like you and I should put that together and turn that into some kind of something.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got to figure that out.
Clark bars. We'll figure it out. But the point is that he may have thought he could learn from. Like I have a book on, I think it's called How to Cheat at Everything. This like CIA mind fuck book from years ago that was sold as a business book, right?
Right, of course,
right. And I have
our late stage capitalism. That sounds exactly like the book that
when I bought it, I did it when I was doing Celebricadabra on VH1 because it was written by a magician. It was written by a magician who taught tricks to the CIA, who literally came in and was like, I'll teach everybody how to do magic tricks because that skill is invaluable,
That actually sounds, I mean, in all seriousness, that sounds kind of fascinating. Even,
It's a great book.
You
It's
don't need a
terrific.
private equity guy to read it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, right. Well, and I read Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I can't believe hasn't been made into a movie.
I read
And
that
you
one
know,
too. That was
right.
that was
So
good.
I'm not averse to reading books about, by, and for awful people. I've read the Turner Diaries. I have not read Mein Kampf, but I have read Atlas Shrugged all the way through. And yeah, I did, and
Basically, just it's almost like Mein Kampf, translated into English. You're fine.
yeah, but like
It's not
whinier, I
really. I'm
guess.
kidding,
Is
but
it
like
all?
I mean,
No, but like
yeah, she's great.
yeah, how
Worldwide
dare
great.
it's more like a Greta Thunberg speech. Like, how dare you? You should be ashamed of yourself. You can't tell me how to live. But
That's right.
anyways, yeah. But yeah, somebody's like Adolf Hitler pop-up book. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we found out that that was a pop-up book, a
Like a
version of the
Hitler.
speeches.
You probably had like it was like a pop up like kids book or something. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Hitler
Hitler.
lays down beside
Yeah,
the lions, and
yeah, right.
like that kind of shit.
Being a pseudo-Nazi for dummies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now I've got Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, waiting in the wings, and I'm going to bring her in just a moment. But I want to thank you,
Sure.
A, for being with us today, lovely and
Yes.
talented Cliff Schecter. We have to do this again very
Let's
soon.
not wait as long.
No, let's
And
not.
that's not to blame you, or it's my fault too. We just both have had stuff and things going on. But
Yeah,
we'd
we're
love
busy people. We got a lot of
we
shaking
got
going on.
stuff, man. There's fascism out there, or there's
Hmm.
got to eat lunch sometimes. There's
Yeah,
stuff.
right. Even just breaking bread at some point. I will be in your neck of the woods sometime around the holidays, so
Outstanding.
we'll try to get together and hang during that period of time. That'd be lovely.
That sounds great.
I'm also
We'll
going to go
definitely do
fly
that.
in
Maybe we can
and
do another one from the office here. That was fun.
yeah, that's right. I've got to fly into Kentucky and because my dad's getting on in years and with his dialysis and stuff, it gets a bit rough. So I'm thinking about sometime in the near future before winter breaks, flying in and doing a honeydew list thing for them because I got to set up a electric battery system for their house so that in case the power goes out while he's on dialysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a thing. And they're out in the country where an ambulance is a long trip, so that's a priority for me. So I won't be off the air, guys. You won't have to worry. I will be on. I will just be doing it from his office. But we will do that together very soon. And everybody needs to check out blueamp.co. Is it?
Yep, that's it.
And
That
then
is
of course
it. Blueamp.co
Cliffs
is
underscore edge on Substack and on Blue Sky. And I don't know if you're still on Shitter.
I am, but I don't do anything there. And Blue Sky, I'm on. I do a few things, but as long as you got me at YouTube and Substack, that's 80
Those
or
are the main
90% of where you
There you
find
go.
me. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much,
Awesome.
brother. We will talk again soon.
Thanks, man.
Let's chat offline as well too, because I have a couple things to run by you as well. I'd like to pick your brain.
Absolutely.
So,
My brain is in need of a picking. So let's do it.
I've said that a couple of times, and people, as they said in Mindhunter, well, that's another life sentence. So
That's
all right.
true. Be careful
All right.
about, I won't. Well,
Yeah.
we'll end the jokes and let Tara come on. Thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. Cheers. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The lovely and talented Cliff Schecter.